Why? Hey everyone, and welcome to our next live session on TCS NQT preparation. So let's go ahead and begin without any delay and start working on this. Now, if you guys remember, in the last session, we unfortunately ended with a technical glitch where we couldn't continue from the last topic, that was the MCQs that we were covering. So let's go ahead and begin from here. So as always, just to recall, this is going to be a live video from Quant Masters so that you can be a part of this live video, live chat, which is available within YouTube, and you can ask any questions on these topics that we will be going through for TCS NQT. And any doubts that you may have, any queries that you may have, we will do our best to clear them up. So without any delay, let's quickly begin and start working on this. Now, just to recall, in the last session, we took up a few MCQ questions that could possibly be asked in TCS NQT. So we're going to continue from there, and we're going to take a look at other MCQs that have been asked. Now, just as a reminder, please note, we are currently solving the MCQs that are given in the demo test for TCS NQT, which basically means that these are the kind of questions you can expect. So once we have solved the demo questions, that is demo MCQs, we'll immediately go ahead to solve the next part, that is the demo programming questions that have been asked as well. So in the last session, where we stopped was basically at this particular question. Due to a glitch, we were unable to continue from there. We stopped at a particular question which asked, how do you measure progress of a project? How do you measure progress of a software development project over time? That is, x-axis will be time, in other words, and y-axis will be progress of different parts of your software development. So we basically use something called Gantt chart to perform that. So I'm just going to take Google Images just to show you what exactly it is. You can take a look at any of these images and you get to see that there are different phases of development, and there are dates provided here. That is, these are the possible dates from where will be implementing. This is the possible dates required to perform planning and so on. So this is basically what is a Gantt chart. It helps plan development of software in a proper way with respect to time. So the answer for that question, which we unfortunately had to end in the last session, was Gantt chart. However, with that quickly gone, let's go on to the next question very quickly that has been asked. So the next question is a simple scenario, and they're not giving you the entire code. They're instead giving you half the code. Half the code is given and they're asking you to solve a little problem. The problem they give you is this. M is the result and this is the equation. M is A greater than B, question mark, and here you have something like A greater than C, again question mark, we return A, otherwise we return C, and we have one more thing, that is again colon, again this is going to be B greater than C. Let me just zoom out so that this entire question is visible for everybody. So this is the exact question, and here if B is greater than C, question mark, we're going to do something like return B, otherwise return C. That's it. So this is your entire question. So let's take this. Now, with this particular question, the logic is very simple. The logic is very simple. Now, let me just make sure that I've used the brackets properly here before we continue, to make sure that we won't go wrong anywhere whatsoever. Absolutely right. So let me remove this one extra bracket that's not required. So this is all that we have. This is our simple question. This is our simple program. Now, with this particular question, they're asking us, for which values of A, B, and C will the result M be 4? That is the question. The question is as simple as this. For which combination of integer variables a, b and c will you get the variable value m as 4? So they're going to give you four different options of what exactly will be the value of a, b and c. You have to take these four different values of a, b and c and try to figure out for which values of a, b and c you will get the result as 4. So if you remember our previous sessions, we have particularly specified that you're going to expect some questions based on programming constructs. So this ternary operator is something based on that. It's just programming construct, or it could be even based on implementation of C. Very simple scenario. Let's take a quick look at this and try to solve this. So for those who may not be familiar with ternary operator or who need a little revision, it's just like an if-else condition. You have a condition initially and you have a question mark followed by two options. So followed by the condition and question mark, you have a true statement and a false statement. Basically, if the condition is true, the true statement executes. If the condition is false, the false statement executes. That's as simple as it is. There's nothing else about it. That is all that we need to know here in order to solve this particular problem. So let's take a quick look at this and try working through this and see whether we are able to solve this. So let's start with the first question, first logic. So in the first scenario, the values of A, B and C given are as follows. A is 6, B is 5, C is 3. Now I'm going to solve this and I'll tell you why you should not solve this. I will solve this, but I'll also tell you why you should never solve this. So in this case, I have A equals 6 as pointed out, B equals 5 and C equals 3. In this scenario, let's start from the left to the right. So the left part condition is A greater than B. Now you can observe here that this is your condition. If the condition is true, this statement executes. If the condition is false, this particular statement executes. That's as simple as it is. That's all we need to know. Now let's start with this very quickly. In this particular scenario, our A value, as we know, is 6 and B value is 5. So let's start with this. Is A greater than B in our case? Of course, no. 6 greater than 5 is false. Since it is false, it won't go to the true statement. It will instead go to the false statement. Now the false statement is B greater than C, return either B or C. Let's take this scenario. False statement is B greater than C. B is 5. 5 is greater than 3. True. Condition is true. So it's going to go ahead and execute the true statement, that is return 3. So this 3 will be returned back to M. If you observe throughout the program, everywhere in the program, what you are returning, I'll explain this in short. Everywhere in the program, what you are returning is either A, B or C. Throughout the program, throughout this particular code, anywhere you see, what's the final value that is sent to M? The final value that is sent to M is either A from here, C from here, or B from here, or C from here. So the final value which will be sent back to M should be either of A or B or C. It cannot be anything else. That is something we can clearly observe and understand. If the final resulting value should be either A, B or C, and if none of them are 4, why should I even calculate with this option? Does that make sense? Think very carefully. You want to save time during your interviews as well, right? So that you can focus on other questions as well. So think very carefully. If I have A greater than B, question mark A colon B, you know the result will be either A or B. So if I give you a scenario where A equals 5, B equals 3, and if I ask you, will this return 4? You're going to be like, hey, A is 5, B is 3, it will never return 4. So same logic applies even for this problem. Here, instead of returning just A or B, our final returning values are A, B and C, one of these three. Since none of them are 4, we basically don't have to calculate them at all. I hope that's very clear. So I request you guys to please do let me know in the live chat if it's clear. Are you able to get this? Do you find it difficult? Or if you do find it difficult, whatever queries or whatever part of it you find it difficult, please feel free to let me know. I will ensure to respond towards the same. I will ensure to answer the same and help you solve whatever query you may have within this. So please do let me know in such a scenario, and do not hesitate, do not worry. This live series is made for the purpose of having everybody understand this and work on this very well. So let's take the look at the second option. Forget 6, 5 and 3. Let's take a look at the second scenario. The second scenario is where A, B and C values. Let's take A as 5, B as 3 and C as 5. Should I calculate this? This is my question to you guys. What do you think? Think very carefully. Do I need to perform calculation based on this? At Yashu's question, simple logic. Observe this. If I have A greater than B, question mark, A colon B. This means if A is greater than B, it will return A. Otherwise, it will return B. Will it return any other value? Absolutely no, right? So same logic is what we are applying here as well, based on the question that I've just received in live chat. Here also, if A is greater than B, we go and execute this. When we execute this, we have one more ternary operator inside of it. That is A greater than C. If A is greater than C, we return A. Otherwise, we return C. So what are the two options that we are returning? Either A or C. If A is not greater than B, it will go to the second part. In the second part, we are checking if B greater than C. If B is greater than C, it will return B. Otherwise, it will return C. So it will either return B or C. So the only three options this entire operation, this entire statement can return are A, B and C. Since these are the only three options this entire statement can return, and the question is given in such a way that for which A, B and C values M will become 4. This is the question. For which A, B and C values will M become 4? So in that case, since neither A nor B nor C, since none of these three values are 4, should I calculate whether it returns 4 or not? That's my question. What do you girls think? What do you all think? Should I really calculate it? Because we are returning either A, B or C based on the logic of this. Since we are returning either A, B or C, since A is not 4, B is not 4, C is not 4, no matter what value is returned, 4 will never be the final value of M. That's why we can skip this part of the code as well. Skip this particular option as well, and we can directly go for the next option. The next option is this 0, 4, 2. Let's see whether it's correct or not. Let's check to see whether this works or not. So first condition is A greater than B. Is 0 greater than 4? No, this is false. Since it is false, let's not execute the true part. Let's skip the true part entirely. So I'm going to skip the entire true part here. Let's only execute the false part ahead of it, because false part comes after colon. So the false part here is B greater than C colon B equals B greater than C question mark B colon C. So is B greater than C? Take B and C. 4 is greater than 2 true. Since it is true, it is going to return the value of B, which is 4. Hence, this is the option at which M becomes 4. So this is the right answer. It's a very simple question, a very simple code. As I've stated earlier, you will get 10 questions which you need to solve in 15 minutes. And these 10 questions will be varied from different parts of computing and computing basically. So computing fields. So you can get it from C, C++, Java, pseudocode, algorithms, data structures, anything else, Java as well. So this is the code that you have been given for that is based on particularly programming construct. So that's the whole idea. Since it gives you the result 4, you can say that is the absolute right answer. So anyway, with this very clear, let's move on to the next question. The next question is based on concept of data structures. Again, all the questions we are solving are from the demo test of NQT, so you can assume your questions will be very similar to this. So here's the simple question. Given a tree. Now, again, as we know, a tree is a data structure where you have a root node and subnodes within below it. Again, each node can have subnodes under it and so on. So this is basically the idea of a tree. So given a tree, they're asking one simple question. Which of the following is an in-order traversal? Which of the following is an in-order traversal is the question. Now, in that particular question that is given over there, they have used a larger set of numbers. Since I don't want to give such huge numbers, I'm going to give you a simpler scenario so that you can understand and solve this easily. Your first option comes up something like 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. Your second option comes up something like 5, 6, 9, or let's say 5, 6, 12, 7, 9, 8, 11, and what else have I missed? 10. Let's say third option, I'll take 5, 7, 6, 4, 3, 9, 12, 13. Or fourth option, I'll take 1, 2, 3, 4, 4, 3, 2, 1. Simple question. Now, out of these, which of the following is, let's say, in order traversal? So this comes up to be slightly confusing. We don't know which of these is in order whatsoever, but there's some simple logic that you need to know. So if you remember, there's something called a binary search tree. In the concept of binary search tree, for each element, every element to the left of it is lesser than that, and every element to the right of it is greater than that. So whenever you talk about in-order traversal should always be in ascending order. How is that so? Let me just give you a simple example to understand. Let's take a simple binary search tree like this. Let's say I have 10 here, and let's say I have 8 here, and 12 here, and let's say I have 7 here, 9 here, and let's say 11 here, and 13 here. Now, you know this is a binary search tree. Why is this a binary search tree? Because the root node is greater than all the elements to the left of it, and root node is lesser than all the elements to the right of it. That's the whole idea. That's the entire scenario. And the question at what concepts, I will give you a clear idea right after this question, if that's all right. Because we're in the middle of a question, right after this, I'll give you a clear idea of that. So you can always be sure of what to answer. I'll make sure to give you the right guidance to start learning on that. So in this scenario, since this is the root node, is every element to the left of it lesser than it? Yes. Is every element to the right of it greater than it? Yes. So it's a binary search tree. Now, how do I make an in-order traversal? In-order traversal is very, very simple. In-order traversal is where we start with left, then we go to root node, then we go to right. So this is the order. We start with left node, then root node, then right node. So let's start with the root node. You always start with the root node. When you start with the root node, what's the first operation you need to do? You need to go to left. Since you need to go to left, I'll say I'm going left from root node. Let's go to the left of it. When we go to the left of it, again, this is my next node. In the next node, I need to repeat same steps. It's a recursive function. Since it's a recursive function, I need to basically repeat the same steps. So even here, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to go here also to the left. When I go to the left, again, here also, from this next element also, I have to go to the left. But there's nothing to the left here. Since there's nothing to the left here, the next thing is to print the root node itself. So let's print the root node, which is 7. After printing it, let's go to the right. Is there anything to the right? Absolutely no. So let us get back here. So the left is done. Now let's go for the root node. So let us print the root node here. Root node is 8. Done. Then let's go for right. Again, there's an element at right. So again, same here. Left, there's nothing. Print the root node, which is 9. Then go to the right value. There's nothing. So go back. When you go back here, left, root node, and right are all done. So go back to the previous element. Here left is done. Now let's print the root node, which is 10. After that, let's go for right. And once you do here, same logic repeats again. For this element also, start from left. Go to left first. For 11 also, go to left. There's nothing in left. So let's print the root node, which is 11. And then let's go to right. There's nothing to right. So let's go back. When you go back, left is done. Let's print the root node, which is 12. And then go to right. When you go to right, there's only one element left. Here there's nothing to the left. So let's print the root node, which is 13. Then go to the right. There's nothing else. So for every element left, root node, and right is all done. You can see the in-order traversal is going to be the ascending order of the tree regardless. Since you get to realize that the in-order traversal is ascending order of the tree, you can basically get to know and understand in short that no matter what kind of tree is given, if you have a question particularly, like you have to find in-order traversal. you can quickly assume the one which is ascending order is the only one, which is going to be option 1 only. That's how you can get to solve that. I hope that was a simple and easy question for us to solve. Before I go ahead, I have one question. What should I learn within all of these? So I think I've pointed this out slightly in our initial session, but I'll just take a minute very quickly to give you a clue. So just remember, first thing, start with C. When you start with C, you're not only learning programming constructs, you're also learning implementation using C. When I say programming constructs, what I mean is if condition, while loop, for loop, all these kind of things. You need to go through interview questions on these sort of topics which can often be asked, and how exactly are you going to solve them and everything. So once that is done, once programming constructs, basics of all of these are done, you can go for implementation using C, things like pointers and so on, which we will get to a question up next. So once you have learned all of these in C, you can also answer pseudocode questions. Because pseudocode is just different way of writing your regular code. If any of you are new to this particular part of the video, please go through our third video, which is the first technical preparation video for TCS NQT, where we have just shown with a couple of examples how a regular C programming interview question can be asked as a pseudocode. So the previous example that I just took with ternary operator, that can also be considered to be a pseudocode question as well. So if you are able to know and understand how to solve programs using C and everything properly, you can easily work on pseudocodes properly as well. So in short, my logic is simple. Start with C. Learn C as much as possible. That will ensure that you can answer programming constructs, implementation using C, as well as pseudocode. Followed by this, go for C++ and Java. Here, learn object-oriented programming concepts as much as possible. Because if they're ever going to ask you any question based on this, it's going to be based on object-oriented programming more than anything else, because that is what is unique about C++ and Java, which C doesn't have. So you can expect questions on that. So focus more on object-oriented programming as much as possible. Followed by this, when you go for, let's say, data structures and algorithms, go try to learn all the common data structures. That is particularly stacks, queues, linked lists, double linked lists, and trees, graphs, all of these things. So in the demo test, there are 3 questions given from data structures alone. So 30% of the questions in this demo test out of the 10 questions given are from data structures alone, just to recall and point out. Then algorithms, you may want to learn something about sorting algorithms, some basic examples like that, time complexity and space complexity, to make sure that you're good at those questions, and you should be good to go with that at least. And once all of these is done, you can go for the final thing, which is software development lifecycle, which, even though there's only one question, it's still pretty important. You may expect some questions on validation, testing, verification, different models of deployment, how do you measure, or what is SRS, or software requirement specification. Certain questions could be expected. So this will be the order I would suggest. So start here, then continue ahead one step at a time and keep going. That should be helping you out a lot when it comes down to this. So let us move ahead and continue ahead very, very quickly over here to the next part, and start over to the next question very, very quickly without any delay whatsoever. So the next thing, I hope that answers the question that I've received very, very clearly as to how to focus, what to work on initially, and what to focus initially. So that would be the way I would particularly go through it. So you can take a thought by yourself as well. Now let's go for the next thing. The next question is very simple. There is a doubly circular linked list. A doubly circular linked list. So this is the question. In a doubly circular linked list, what is the content? The question is simple. What is the content of rightmost element, the rightmost element and its right field, and in other words its last field, what will it point to? That is, in a doubly circular linked list, what will be the right part of the last element pointing to? Now, to understand this, we need to know what is a doubly linked list or a double linked list. We need to also know what is a circular linked list. It's just a combination of both of these that we are just using here. So in short, just remember, linked list is a data structure that we often use instead of arrays whenever insertion and deletion is of higher importance. So just to be clear, just so that I give you a little basic idea on this, in an array, if I store elements like 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5, if I want to insert an element 0 here, I need to move all these elements ahead to one more index and then insert 0 here. So insertion and deletion are very costly when it comes down to type arrays. But when you have linked list, in linked list elements are not stored in continuous memory location. Each element is stored in a very different memory location. Each element is stored in completely different location. For example, if your first element is 10, which is stored in some address like 100, your second element will not be stored in 102, the next address. Your second element will be instead stored in some address, let's say for example 200. Again, 200 is just an example that I've taken. And your third element will be stored in an entirely different address, let's say 300, that is 30. Now, the idea of linked list is, since these elements are not stored in continuous memory location, you must somehow be able to still move from first element to second element. That is why in a linked list, we not only store the data of the first element, we also store the address of the second element along with it. Yes, you may think, isn't this gonna take more memory? Absolutely yes, totally agreed, no doubt about it. But if you want to insert an element in the middle, isn't that going to be easier than an array? Because if I have an array of 10, 20 and 30, if I want to insert 15 in the middle, I have to move 30, I have to move 20, then I have to insert 15. However, if it's a linked list, in a linked list, each element stores a data as well as address of the next element. So in that address, we store a data and the address of the next element. And in that address, we store the data and the address of the next element. If this is our last element, since there is no further elements, the next element address can be considered to be null in short. This is how a linked list links elements like this. In this scenario, if you want to enter a new element, let's say 15 in between, the logic is very simple. Create 15 in some memory address like 150. All you have to do is make it point to 200. So it will point here. And all you need to do is break this link from 10 by changing the address that 10 is storing to 150. So it stores here. This is the main advantage of linked list, to be simple and short. Now, if your last element of the linked list stores, let's say, the address of the first element, it moves in a circular direction. It keeps on looping itself again and again and again. If it is storing the starting address 100, it's basically called a circular linked list. Now, this linked list can only move in one direction. Hence, we call it as a single linked list. To make it a double linked list, it should be able to move in both directions. To be able to move in both directions, you should not only have the address of the next element, but also the address of the previous element. So let's take a simple example to understand this. If I have 10 here, 20 here, 30 here, let's say 30 is stored in address 300, 20 is stored in address 200, and 10 is stored in address 100. So for a doubly linked list, the first element will not only store the address of second element, will also store the address of previous element in a double linked list. So here, since the first element does not have any previous element, any element behind it, I can say the previous address is null and the next address is 200. So it only points in one direction. Similarly, for the value 20, since there is an element before it, so we'll store with 100. So it will point in this direction. Since the next element is in address 300, we'll store 300 here so that it can point in the other direction also. Similarly, for 30 also, we're going to do the same. the previous address will store it as 200 because it can point to the previous element, and next address, since there's no element ahead of it, we basically point it as null. So this is how your linked list can move in both linear directions, forward as well as backward. However, this is not our entire question. Our question is on doubly circular linked list. A circular linked list is such that last element of the linked list should point to the first element of the linked list in a circle, and the first element of linked list should point back to the last element of the linked list in a circle as well. So in other words, the last element of our linked list in the right side should not point to null, should instead point to 100, so that it is pointing to the first address. Similarly, the first element, when you go behind it, since it is circular, since it's supposed to be in a circle and keep looping, it's supposed to point to the last element on the other hand. So I'm going to store 300 here. So this is your concept of a doubly circular linked list. And your question is this. Your question is a very simple question. In a doubly circular linked list, what will be the content of the right address field of the last node? Simple. What will be the content of right address field, not the left address field? I'm talking about right address field of the last node. Since you already got to realize what the answer is, I'm just going to give you the questions. I'm just going to give you the 4 options. Let's see how many of you can get it right. So the options given here in the demo test are 1. Garbage value, 2. Address of first element, 3. Depends on user, 4. Null. If it was just a doubly linked list, if it was not circular, then it will be null. But since it is circular, it needs to go back to the first element. So it's always address of the first element in such a scenario. So this is again a very simple question that has been asked. If you're able to understand the concept of these data structures like this, you should be very easily able to answer. Now, just because the demo test gives you this question, don't assume your question is only going to be this. Your question in linked list instead could also come up in terms of code. For example, which of the following will create a linked list? They may give you 4 options. One option will be something like this. Struct node with something like int data and something like int star next. Next option, instead of int star next, they will write char star next. Next option, instead of char star next, they'll write struct node star next. And in the next option, they'll say all of the above. So the answer is simple. It's the third one. There's a reason for that. Because you're pointing to the next element. The next element is of the type struct node because that's your user defined data type. So it's not compulsory that you can expect questions only the way that is given in the demo test. So know that a little bit of coding is also pretty much required. If you're learning data structures like trees, like anything, stacks, linked lists, whatever it could be, make sure you learn a little bit of coding. Make sure you learn at least the basics of how it is implemented. So it should be easy enough for you to answer such questions in interviews regardless. So anyway, let's quickly move ahead to the next question. So the next question is based on Java. Since it's based on Java, I'm just going to take this simple scenario where I'm going to take Java compiler and I'm just going to type that question out here so we can try to figure out if we will be able to find the solution or not. And in this question, there is no 4 options. There are no 4 different options. It's not a multiple choice question. In this question, they're directly giving you a fill in the blank type of scenario where they're asking you what will be the output of the following code. So let me give you the code. Let's say public class main. And in this public class, I'm going to create a function called, let's say, public static void main of string arguments. As we always know, this is the basic default one. And they say that this particular function throws a null pointer exception as well. Why should it throw a null pointer exception and everything? We'll figure out later on. Let's not worry about it. So once this is done, let me just move this aside so you can see the whole question. Perfect. So once this is done, you have a simple scenario. Int array equals 1, 2. That's it. And then you have a print function printing hello, and then one more print function printing user, and one sorry, this is supposed to be again in double quotes. Let me update that quickly. And one final print question, one final print function, in other words, which is going to print array of 1. This is your entire question. And it's asked as a fill in the blanks type question. Please note, it's asked as a fill in the blank type question, not as a question where they're going to give you 4 different options to answer from. It's not asked in that way. So how can we figure this out? Let's take a look at this. So again, for those who may be slightly new to Java, if any part of this is confusing, feel free to let me know. I will ensure to answer the best that I can to help you out with this. Let's take a look at this and let's see how exactly it works. So we have our main function within which we have these statements. So main function is throwing a null pointer exception. Whether you write this or not, it makes no difference. For those who know exception handling, you should just know that whether you write this or not, it makes absolutely no difference. Simple reason is because whether you write the keyword throws or not, whether you write it or not, by default, whenever any exception occurs, that is, whenever any runtime error occurs, the function where the error is created, function where runtime error occurs, automatically throws that exception. Exception is an unhandled error, is an unchecked error, is an error that occurs during runtime. So whenever a runtime error occurs, it is automatically thrown from that function unless you use try and catch blocks. We are not using try and catch blocks, so automatically any exception gets thrown. So we don't have to worry about this part of the code whatsoever. It is just written to throw your mind off from the actual solution. That's all. So when they ask you to write your own answer as fill in the blanks, you may say, hey, it may give me null pointer exception. You may write in the scenario, it is null pointer exception. It's not. So remember that. So let's start with this. The first statement, we are creating an array. Is this valid? Of course it is valid. We are creating an array which is storing 2 elements, 1 and 2. 1 is stored in index 0, 2 is stored in index 1. That is all there is to it. It's completely valid. It's totally right. You can create an array like this. So once the array is created, we are printing hello with a space. So remember, in such statements, especially in fill in the blanks type of questions that they have given, if there's a space there, please make sure that you are printing that space as well. Please ensure to do that. Do not forget that whatsoever. So here we get the output as first statement is hello and a space. So I have to write exactly this, followed by, let's go to the next statement. The next statement is user. So I'm going to write the exact same thing, hello space and user. After user, there's no space anymore. After that, we are printing array of 1. You can easily access array of 1, which is totally valid. It is 2. So it prints hello user 2. That's it. That's the simple logic. That's all there is to this question. Your output is hello user 2. Now, this didn't even involve complicated classes and objects concept whatsoever. It seems like a simple Java question. You can expect such questions as well, but I would highly suggest that if you are getting a question, you would probably get one based on classes and objects concepts itself, something on terms of inheritance or polymorphism or something like that. So make sure you're able to be well prepared for those as well. Anyway, let's move away from this. So this was the previous question. This was the question on Java that you had. Followed by this, there's one more question which is based on pointers. As I've stated in my previous session, if you guys remember, pointers are one of the most common concepts you can expect interview questions in. So they have given you a very simple and easy interview question based on pointers, and this is based on character pointers. So let me quickly take this question up. I'll explain as I write the question, then we will go ahead and try to solve it. So a question is like this. You have a character star name of brackets. Now first things first, the moment you see this, you may be confused like, how can this even work? How is this even possible? Don't worry, I'll explain this. So here you have something like ABC, comma DEF, comma let's say GHI, comma JKL. So I have 4 strings within it, and that's it. So I need to use this. Done. So I have 4 strings within it. This is the initial part of the question. So it's basically an array of strings. In short, it is an array of strings. And all that we are printing here is %C, comma, star name of 2 plus 2. This is what they're asking. The moment you see this, you may initially be confused. That's completely, totally alright. Remember, this question is also asked as a fill in the blanks question. They have not given 4 options for you to select, or they have not given 4 options for you to apply something like elimination method or something like that. That's not done. So this is exactly what is here. So let's try this out. Let's see what happens. Now, let me ask you one question. Can I create a string like this? Char star str equals like ABC. Can I also create a string like this as well? For instance, the second scenario, char str of let's say empty brackets equals ABC. Of course, both are completely possible. Just remember, both are totally right. Both will create an array. Both will create a string. A string is basically an array of characters. Both are possible. So whether you write it as star before the string name or whether you write brackets after string name, both will create an array only. So what is there in our code? Let's take a look at what is there in our question. In our question, I have char star name and brackets. So there is one array, there is another array. So you can say it is an array. Hold on, guys, I'm very sorry. Hold on. It is an array of arrays. That's exactly what it means. So we have an array of arrays. So name is a double array or an array to an array. So name is basically an array which stores something. What it stores is, what name stores is, we see that name stores 4 elements. So what name exactly stores here is starting addresses of those 4 elements. So remember, ABC will be somewhere in some memory location. Let's say ABC is in memory 100. So A, B, C, and every string ends with null character. So this is address 100, this is address 101, this is address 102, this is address 103. So this string is available in some address. This string ABC is stored in some address. And whatever starting address that string is stored in, that starting address will always be there in your index of the array. So if you try to print name of 0, if you want to try this later on as well, you can try to print name of 0 as %p. When you try to print name of 0 as %p, you'll get the output as 100 itself. Because %p will print the address, and that is exactly what you're getting here. So let's take a look at the next case. The next case is DEF. So the next scenario is DEF. That is also followed by null character. Let's say, for instance, this is stored in some address 104. So 104, 105, 106, and 107. So the next string starts at address 108. That is G, H, I, and null character. Then the next string starts at address 112 because each string is taking 4 bytes, including null character. So J, K, L, and null character. So what we are printing here is star name of 2 plus 2. Let's try to calculate this. Let's try to figure this out. So we can try to answer this well. So let's take this. Let's start with this. Let's start with left to right. Remember, there's a plus. Since there's a plus, it's a binary operator. Since it's a binary operator, this is a separate operand and this is a separate operand. We need to calculate both operands separately and then calculate the result. So let's take the first operand. First operand is star name of 2. Second operand is 2. First, let's calculate the left hand part. Star name of 2. Within this, we have star. Star is a dereferencing operator. Star always works right to left. So for me to calculate star, I need to calculate it from right to left. So let's first figure out what is name of 2. So if this is name array, this is index 0, this is index 1, this is index 2, this is index 3. Name of 2 is 108. That's going to be the address, right? Name of 2 will store the starting address of the string, that is GHI. So name of 2 will give me 108. That's it. 108 is what is there in name of 2. Before that I have star and after that I have plus 2. So let us calculate what is star of 108. Star of 108 is value within address 108. What is the value within address 108? You get G. Just remember 100, 101, 102, 103, 104, 105, 106, 107 and 108. Value within address 108 is G. So I take this as G plus 2. Now G plus 2 is what I'm printing as a character. What is G plus 2? Take the ASCII value of G, add 2. When you take the ASCII value of G and add 2, it gets to be H and then I. 2 ASCII values are added, your result should be I. Because ASCII values are stored in its continuous order. Lowercase a is 97, lowercase b is 98, lowercase c is 99 and so on. So it always is stored in its continuous order. So G plus 2 you get as I. It's not because after G you have I after 2 characters. That's not the reason. Even if you add something like Z here, it will still be I only as the answer. Because you're calculating G plus 2. You're adding 2 to the ASCII value of G. That's the whole idea. So let's see if it is correct or not. Let's see if your logic works right or not. It prints I on the screen. And just to see if our logic is again right, I will make this as Z instead of I. And I'm going to run the same thing. Even now you get I itself. So you get to realize that our logic is absolutely right. So these are the sort of questions you can definitely expect within TCS NQT. I hope it's been very easy for you to solve these. I hope it's not difficult whatsoever. I hope we are making it easy for you to solve these as well. So with this, we have now completed the MCQ parts of the demo test. In our next live session, we're going to go ahead and take a look at the programming part of the demo test that has been asked in TCS NQT, where you can expect such questions in your interviews. So we're going to take a look at them and we're going to solve them in the next live session that we have. So until then, please keep working hard on this. Don't waste any time, because every moment you may waste may be one topic that you may just miss out. So don't waste much time. Keep practicing hard, keep working hard. Make sure that this Christmas you get a big gift, that is a selection in TCS NQT. So keep practicing, keep working hard on this. There's lots of other content in our channel. If you want to go through this and watch for better preparation as well, you can always do that. So until next time, we'll catch up. Have a good time and good luck with preparations.